Hi everyone, and welcome to this video on Fischer's greatest games. In the following video, Fischer had the white pieces and he's playing Mihail Tal. So in this game, Fischer played e4, c5, just to put you into to give you a little bit of a historical perspective on this game. Up to this point, Fischer and Tal had played 6 games, so they had 6 encounters, but Fischer had never beaten Tal. So this game makes it all the victory the more sweet. So d4, the open Sicilian, knight takes d4. e6, knight c3, queen c7, and g3. So Fischer plays a sideline in this variation where he's threatening to develop both bishops, one to f4 and the other one to g2. Knight to f6, and here this is a grave blunder, and it's pretty shocking to see a player of Tal's caliber to make a mistake like this in the opening, because as you know, grandmasters and players of their level, they're theoretically versed. It's just basically it's exceptional how well they're prepared. But with that said, in this game, Tal must have blundered, or maybe he misevaluated the position. Knight to b5, queen to b8, and bishop to f4. And here we begin to see the problems that Black is going to have along this diagonal, and they're going to be made pretty evident. Knight to e5 and bishop to e2. This is a very good move. Basically, the bishop on e2 controls 2 diagonals as opposed to just one, and it's a little unnatural to play g3 and then bishop to e2, but at the moment it's the best square for the bishop. So now Black plays bishop to c5, which is the most active move in the position, but there are other alternatives. Let's say a6, then he would have encountered queen to d4, d6, rook d1, and after pawn takes knight, bishop takes knight, and white is completely winning in this position. So going back, another alternative could have been d6, and after that he could have faced queen to d4, knight to c6, knight takes d6 check, king d7, bishop b5, bishop takes knight, bishop takes knight, and now just castles down, and white is just winning once again. So going back to the original position, after bishop to e2, Black played bishop c5, and now white plays bishop takes knight. The idea behind this move is that after queen takes bishop, white has the opportunity of playing f4, and he has a deadly positional plan, which is to basically push e5 and then later play knight to e4 and anchor one of these knights on the d6 square. That basically cements this bishop on c8 for the rest of the game, and keeping this pawn on d7 makes Black's pieces be partially clogged up and lack coordination. So after queen to b8, e5, a6, pawn takes knight, this variation is forced because of the previous positional plan that we had explained. Pawn takes g7, and rook to g8. So what could we say about this position? White is better in the center, on the king side, and on the queen side. Why is that? Well, on the king side, white has a better pawn structure, and obviously Black's king side has been jeopardized because of the pawn snatches that occurred on that side of the board. In the center, white is better because he has better developed pieces, better central control. And on the queen side, white is better because if you analyze the pawn structure, Black has doubled pawns, and white's pawn structure is basically as organic as it can be. So here white plays knight to e4, bishop to e7. The game is now going to revolve around these dark squares. Queen to d4, centralizing the queen and basically creating a deadly threat, which is knight to f6 check. Rook to a4, knight f6 check. Black is now forced to give way with basically the savior of his position. Queen takes, and queen c7. Queen c7 is a very good defensive move. The idea is to stop any threats of bishop to h5 by playing d5 afterwards. So castles, rook takes a2, king to b1, and now rook to a6. A very good defensive move, threatening e5. Bishop takes b5, rook b6, and bishop d3. Now the threat is bishop takes h7. e5, threatening the queen. Could you see how Fischer continued the game? Try to take a moment and think how you would continue in this position. Queen takes pawn? Nah, I'm just kidding. And no, not queen takes rook. White continued by playing pawn takes pawn, sacrificing the queen, and this variation leads to an overwhelming advantage for white. After rook takes queen, pawn takes queen, queen c5, bishop takes pawn, queen g5, bishop takes rook, queen takes pawn, rook hf1, queen takes pawn, bishop takes f7 check, and king to d8. Now white is completely winning. He has 2 rooks for the queen. He has 2 rooks and 2 pawns for the queen. So he's basically up a piece in this position. Bishop to e6, queen to h6, bishop takes d7, bishop takes d7. The rest of the game really doesn't need much explanation. Now white is attacking the pinned piece. Queen takes pawn, rook takes c7 check. This is basically a deadly scenario for black because now the rooks are just have the king trapped, and what eventually is going to happen is that they're going to create mating threats on the 7th rank. King e8, rook d7, king d8, rook d7 check. Rook d1, b5, rook b7, rook h5. If queen takes pawn, then simply rook takes b5. g4. If queen takes h4, then rook h1, queen d4, rook h8 check, queen takes rook, and rook to b8 check, picking up the queen afterwards. So g5, queen f3, rook e1. The game will pretty soon end, and the game concluded on the 47th move after rook to a6.